Taman Park walked through the long hallways of Nexus Prime Station. His black suit was perfectly pressed, but his face showed the tiredness of a man who had fought too many losing battles. Behind him, 4 other humans followed in silence. They all knew today would be different. They just did not know how different. The Galactic Council chamber was huge. It could hold 10,000 beings from across the galaxy. Crystal towers reached up to a glass ceiling that showed the stars beyond. In the center sat the Council of Elders, 5 ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Tae-min had been Earth's ambassador for 15 years. He had sat in these chambers hundreds of times. He had listened to the same dismissive voices, the same condescending words, the same empty promises. Today felt like the end of something important. Ji-won Kim, the human military liaison, stood beside him. Her uniform was covered with medals from wars she had fought for the Council. Wars where human soldiers died protecting alien worlds. Wars where humans were always the first to charge into danger and the last to receive thanks. "Remember," Ji-won whispered. "Stay calm. Let them show their true colors." Tae-min nodded. He looked around the chamber at the thousands of representatives. Most ignored the human delegation completely. The younger species, reptilian sauridans, insect-like collective members, gaseous nebula dwellers, watched with interest. They understood what it meant to be dismissed by the elders. The Vorthon speaker began the session. Its crystalline body chimed like broken glass as it spoke. "The Council recognizes the human delegation. State your business quickly. We have important matters to discuss." Taemin stood up. "Honored elders, I come before you today with the same request humanity has made for 30 years. We ask for equal voting rights in this council. We ask to be treated as full members, not junior partners." Laughter echoed through the chamber, not from the younger species, but from the elders and their closest allies. The sound made Taemin's jaw tighten. The luminary representative, a being of pure energy contained in a floating sphere, pulsed with amusement. "Young humans," its voice was like wind chimes. "You have been members of this council for only 50 years. Some of us have been here for 50,000. Patience is a virtue you must learn." "We have been patient," Taemin replied. "We have given you our best soldiers, our finest minds, our most precious resources. Human blood has watered 100 worlds in service to this council. What more must we do to earn your respect?" The depths representative, a massive aquatic creature in a water-filled tank, spoke in bubbling tones. "Humans are useful, yes, good fighters, good workers. But decision-making? That requires wisdom. Wisdom comes with age." Hee-Jin Lee, Earth's top scientist, stepped forward. She carried a small device in her hands. "Perhaps wisdom comes with results," she said. "I present to the Council our latest breakthrough. Instantaneous communication across any distance. No more waiting years for messages to cross the galaxy." Murmurs filled the chamber. Even the elders leaned forward with interest. Faster than light. Communication had been impossible for millions of years. Every species had tried and failed. Hye-jin activated the device. A hologram appeared, showing Dr. Yoo-jin Shin speaking from a laboratory on Earth, 40,000 light-years away. The conversation happened in real time with no delay. "Impossible," breathed the Vorthon speaker. "Very possible," Hye-jin replied. "And this is only the beginning. We offer this technology freely to the Council, as we have offered everything else." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Representatives from younger species applauded. This was exactly the kind of breakthrough that could change everything. Trade, military coordination, scientific collaboration, all of it would be revolutionized. But the elders huddled together in urgent conversation. After several minutes, the Vorthon speaker chimed for silence. "This technology," it announced, "is too dangerous for any one species to control. The Council demands that all research, all prototypes, and all scientists involved be transferred to our custody immediately. For the good of the galaxy, of course." The words hit Taemin like a physical blow. After everything, after decades of service, after centuries of human sacrifice, after presenting the greatest breakthrough in galactic history, they still demanded humanity give up everything and ask for nothing in return. And if we refuse? Taman asked, though he already knew the answer. The depths representative's tank gurgled ominously. Then humanity will find itself very alone in this galaxy. No trade agreements, no protection treaties, no access to council space. Think carefully, young ambassador. Your species needs us far more than we need you. Ji-won Kim's hand moved instinctively toward her sidearm. Around the chamber, she could see human security officers tensing. This was exactly the kind of ultimatum that led to wars. But Tae-min raised his hand for calm. He looked around the chamber one more time, at the sneering faces of the elders, at the worried expressions of the younger species, at his own delegation, loyal humans who had given their lives to serving an ungrateful galaxy. We need time to consider this request, he said finally. You have 24 hours, the Vorthon speaker chimed. Comply or face the consequences. As the session ended, Tae-min felt something break inside him. Not his spirit. That was stronger than ever. But his faith in this system, his hope that reason could prevail, his belief that patience would eventually be rewarded. That evening, Dongwoo Choi found him in his quarters aboard the human diplomatic ship. The intelligence officer's face was grim. I have news, Dongwoo said. Our friends among the younger species have been talking. The elders have been planning this for years. They never intended to give us equal status. We're too useful as we are, strong enough to fight their wars, smart enough to solve their problems, but weak enough politically to never threaten their control. Taemin poured himself a drink with steady hands. How long have they been planning to take our technology? Since the first day we joined the council. Every breakthrough we've shared, every innovation we've contributed, they've been building a file, waiting for the right moment to claim it all. The ambassador stared out at the stars through his window. Somewhere out there was Earth, the world that had trusted him to represent them with honor. Somewhere out there were human colonies, human families, human children who deserved better than a future of eternal servitude. Contact Earth, he said quietly. Tell them to prepare Protocol 7. Dongwoo's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was the plan they had hoped never to use. The plan for a galaxy where humanity stood alone. You sure? The intelligence officer asked. Taemin finished his drink and set down the glass. Tomorrow he would stand before the Galactic Council one final time. But tonight, he was just a tired man who had finally realized that some bridges were meant to be burned. I'm sure, he said. It's time to show them what happens when they push humanity too far. The next morning, Taemin Park stood in front of his mirror and straightened his tie one last time. Today, he would not be asking for anything. Today, he would be making a statement that would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. So young, Yoon handed him a folder as he prepared to leave. The document is ready, she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Are you absolutely certain about this? I've never been more certain of anything in my life, Taemin replied. He took the folder and walked toward the door. Contact all human ships in council space. Tell them to prepare for immediate departure. The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Word had spread about humanity's ultimatum, and representatives from across the galaxy had come to see how the youngest council member would respond. Most expected humanity to bow their heads and surrender their technology, as they had done so many times before. The elders sat in their elevated positions, radiating smug confidence. The Vorthon speaker's crystals hummed with satisfaction. The Mime Luminari's energy field pulsed with amusement. The depth representative's tank bubbled with what might have been laughter. Taemin walked to the center of the chamber. Instead of taking his usual seat in the junior members section, he stood at the speaker's podium, a position usually reserved for the elders themselves. What is the meaning of this? The Vorthon speaker chimed angrily. Return to your proper place immediately. No, Taemin said simply. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I will not return to my place. I will not bow. I will not beg. Today I speak as an equal, or I do not speak at all." Security forces began moving toward the podium, but Ji-won, Kim and her team stepped forward. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but their hands rested on their weapons with calm confidence. The chamber fell silent. Taemin opened the folder and began to read. 53 years ago, humanity joined this council as junior members. We were told this status was temporary. We were told that if we proved ourselves worthy, we would earn full membership and equal voting rights. He paused and looked around. The chamber. For 53 years we have proven ourselves. We have fought in 17 major wars, always on the front lines, always suffering the highest casualties. Human soldiers have died defending worlds we had never seen, protecting species that barely knew our names. The younger species representatives leaned forward, listening intently. Many of them had similar stories, always asked to give, never invited to receive. We have shared our technology freely, Taemin continued. Human engineering built the jump gates that connect this galaxy. Human agriculture feeds billions on worlds that cannot grow their own food. Human medicine has eliminated diseases that plagued civilizations for millennia. The luminary representative pulsed impatiently. "Get to the point, young human. Will you surrender your communication technology or not?" Taemin smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Yesterday you gave humanity an ultimatum. Today I give you our response." He held up the document So Young had prepared. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council permanently. We renounce all treaties, all agreements, and all obligations to this body." The chamber exploded in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages. The elders section erupted in angry chiming, pulsing and bubbling. Several species that depended heavily on human support looked genuinely terrified. "You cannot do this." The Vorthon speaker's crystals rang like alarm bells. "You signed binding agreements. You have responsibilities." "Responsibilities?" Taemin laughed bitterly. "We have fulfilled every responsibility for 53 years. We have honored every agreement, met every obligation, exceeded every expectation. And in return, you treat us like servants and demand we surrender the fruits of our labor." Min Ho-jung, the human trade representative, activated his communicator. Across the galaxy, human trade ships began powering down their engines and changing course. Factories on human worlds started shutting down production lines for alien goods. Agricultural shipments bound for council space were redirected to human colonies. The economic impact was immediate. Species that had grown dependent on human manufacturing and food production watched their supply lines crumble in real time. The collective representative, an insectoid being with compound eyes, buzzed frantically into its own communicator. "The humans are cutting off all trade," it clicked in panic. "Our industrial output will drop by 60% within days." But Taemin was not finished. "You said humanity needs the council more than the council needs humanity. Today we test that theory." Jae-hyun-no, commander of the human fleet stationed at Nexus Prime, stepped forward. His uniform bore the scars of a dozen battles fought in council service. "All human military forces are hereby withdrawn from council space. We will depart within 72 hours. Any worlds currently under human protection should make alternative arrangements." The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. Human fleets protected over 200 worlds across council space. Human soldiers served on peacekeeping missions in 40 systems. Human military advisors helped train the defense forces of dozens of species. A representative from the peaceful harmony worlds rose frantically. "You cannot leave us defenseless. The pirate clans will destroy us within weeks." "Then perhaps," Taemin replied coldly, "you should have thought of that before allowing us to be treated as second-class citizens for half a century." The Depths representative's tank thrashed violently. "This is blackmail. This is extortion." "No," Taemin said. "This is freedom. For the first time in 53 years, humanity chooses its own path." He walked toward the chamber's exit. his delegation following behind him. But before leaving, Yun-Soo Han, the youngest member of the human diplomatic team, placed a small crystal on the speaker's podium. "What is that?" demanded the Vorthen speaker. Yun-Soo smiled sweetly. "Consider it a parting gift. Detailed records of council corruption over the past 50 years, secret deals between the elders, evidence of deliberate suppression of younger species, proof of resource manipulation and vote buying. Everything humanity has observed and documented during our membership." The crystal began projecting holographic displays around the chamber. Financial records, private conversations, classified agreements. Decades of the elders' dirty secrets laid bare for all to see. The younger species representatives stared in shock and growing anger. They had suspected the system was rigged, but seeing the proof was different. Seeing exactly how they had been manipulated and controlled ignited something dangerous in their eyes. "This information will be transmitted to every world in Council space within the hour," Yun-Soo announced. "Let the galaxy judge for itself whether this council serves justice or self-interest." As the human delegation reached the chamber's exit, Taemin turned back one final time. The elders sat frozen in their elevated positions, their usual arrogance, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "You asked what humanity would choose," he said. "We choose dignity over servitude. We choose freedom over security. We choose to walk away from a system that sees us as tools rather than equals." The massive doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the chamber they left behind, chaos reigned as representatives shouted accusations and demands. But the humans were already gone, walking toward ships that would carry them away from Council space forever. 3 hours later, the last human vessel departed Nexus Prime. As Taemin's ship jumped to hyperspace, he watched the station shrink into the distance. Behind them lay 53 years of service, sacrifice, and disappointment. Ahead lay the unknown. Dangerous, perhaps, but free. For the first time in decades, humanity would answer to no master but itself. The galaxy would soon learn what that meant. 3 months had passed since humanity walked out of the Galactic Council. Captain Sung-Ho Kang stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Earth, watching the biggest movement of people in human history unfold before him. Thousands of ships stretched across space like a river of metal and light. Colony vessels the size of cities carried millions of humans away from Council space toward the outer rim. Nobody had expected humanity to be ready for something like this. Nobody except humanity itself. "Status report," Sung-Ho called to his crew. "Fleet 7 has cleared the jump point," reported his navigation officer. "Fleet 8 is 30 minutes behind schedule but still within acceptable limits. All ships reporting green across the board." Sung-Ho nodded. The planning for this exodus had begun years ago, in secret meetings held in the deepest parts of human space. While their diplomats smiled and made polite requests in council chambers, human engineers and planners had been preparing for the day when patience would finally run out. Dr. Yu Jin-shin contacted him from the science vessel Dawn's Light. Her face appeared on the main screen, tired but excited. "Captain, we've completed the initial survey of the Kepler system. 3 planets suitable for immediate colonization, 5 more that can be terraformed within 2 years. 2 years? Seung-Ho raised an eyebrow. The Council's fastest terraforming takes 2 decades. Yu-Jin smiled. The Council doesn't have our FTL communication network. We can coordinate atmospheric processors across an entire planet in real time. What used to take decades now takes months. The technology the Council had tried to steal was revolutionizing everything humanity touched. Real-time communication across any distance meant perfect coordination between widely scattered fleets. It meant instant sharing of scientific discoveries between human colonies thousands of light-years apart. It meant humanity could spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Na-young Kim's voice crackled over the communication system from the intelligence vessel Shadow Runner. "Captain, I'm receiving reports from our monitoring stations in Council space. The situation is deteriorating rapidly." Sung-Ho switched to a private channel. "What kind of deterioration?" "The Harmony worlds fell to pirates yesterday. The collective's industrial output has crashed. The depths are facing starvation without human food shipments, and that's just the beginning. Na-Young's voice carried grim satisfaction. The council is learning what happens when they take their servants for granted, but Seung-ho felt no joy in their former allies' suffering. Any word on the younger species? That's the interesting part. The Soridans have officially requested permission to join our exodus. Their war chief wants to meet with Ambassador Park personally. This was unexpected news. The Soridans were fierce warriors with a strong sense of honor. If they were willing to abandon the council and follow humanity into the unknown, other species might do the same. Set up the meeting, Seung-ho decided. We could use allies out here. The Outer Rim had been considered a wasteland for centuries. Too far from the galactic core, too dangerous with its unstable stars and wandering asteroids, too unprofitable for the council's taste. But humanity saw opportunity where others saw obstacles. Within 6 months, the first human colonies were not just surviving, but thriving. Advanced technology that had been restricted by council regulations flourished in free space. Human engineers designed cities that could withstand the Rim's harsh conditions. Human farmers developed crops that could grow in alien soil. Human miners extracted resources from asteroids that the council had deemed worthless. The colony of New Horizon became humanity's first major success story. Built on a world with 3 suns and constant electrical storms, it should have been uninhabitable. But human ingenuity turned the endless lightning into a power source that made the colony entirely energy independent. General Bo Ram Lee visited New Horizon to inspect the defense installations. The military technology she saw there would have shocked the council. Without their regulations limiting human weapon development, new designs emerged that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. "Show me the gravity cannon," she requested from the colony's chief engineer. The demonstration turned a nearby asteroid into dust in seconds. The weapon manipulated gravitational fields to crush targets from the inside out. It was completely silent, left no radiation signature, and could strike through shields that blocked conventional energy weapons. The Council's military doctrine hasn't changed in 1,000 years, the engineer explained. They got comfortable with their superior numbers and forgot that innovation beats tradition every time. But humanity's greatest achievement was not military or technological. It was social. The Outer Rim Federation, as it came to be called, operated on principles the Council had never understood. Every human colony had equal voice in Federation decisions. Scientists shared discoveries freely. Military protection was provided based on need, not political influence. When the Sauridans arrived, their war chief Crixthon spoke with Ambassador Tae-min Park on New Horizon's orbital station. The reptilian warrior was scarred from decades of battle, but his eyes showed hope that had been missing for years. "The Council promises much and delivers little," Crixthon hissed in his translated speech. "They speak of unity but practice division. They demand loyalty but show no respect. Humans offer something different." "What do we offer?" Tae-min asked. "Partnership," the war chief replied. "True partnership. Sauridans have watched humans for 50 years. You give as much as you take. You fight beside allies, not behind them. You share victories instead of claiming them." Within a week, the first Sauridian colony ships arrived in human space. The integration was not without challenges. Reptilian biology required different atmospheric conditions, and Sauridian social structures were based on warrior clans rather than human democratic principles. But both species worked together to find solutions. The breakthrough came when human engineers developed modular colony designs that could accommodate multiple species. Atmospheric zones within the same city allowed humans and Sauridans to live side by side while maintaining their biological needs. Cultural exchange programs helped each species understand the other's values and traditions. Soon, other species followed. The insectoid collective sent a small delegation to observe human methods. The gaseous nebula dwellers, who had been completely ignored by the Council for centuries, found that human scientists were fascinated by their unique physiology and eager to learn from them. Each new species brought different skills and perspectives, The collective's hive mind allowed for perfect coordination in large construction projects. The nebula dwellers could travel through space without ships, serving as messengers and scouts. Even some of the smaller, more obscure species found roles in the growing Federation. But the most important arrivals were not aliens at all. They were council species who had grown tired of the Elders' rule. Young Vorthan who disagreed with their crystal ancestors. Luminari who wanted to explore new forms of energy manipulation. Even some depths who believed their people were stagnating in the deep ocean cities. Captain Sung Ho received reports of council ships crossing into outer rim space almost daily. Not invasion fleets, but refugee vessels carrying beings who wanted a new life in a freer society. The response from the council was predictably angry. They declared the Outer Rim Federation an illegal separatist movement and threatened sanctions against any species that traded with human colonies. But their threats carried little weight. They had no military strength to back up their words, and their own space was falling apart without human support. Dr. Yujin Shin sent regular reports to Tai Min about the terraform operations. Dozens of new worlds were being prepared for colonization. Advanced techniques developed in human laboratories could transform a barren rock into a garden world in less than 3 years. "We're not just building colonies," she reported during one of their regular meetings. "We're building a new kind of civilization, one based on cooperation instead of domination, innovation instead of tradition, merit instead of age." As the first year of the Exodus ended, humanity had established over 50 colonies across the Outer Rim. The Federation included 7 species and was growing rapidly. Trade networks connected distant worlds in ways the Council had never achieved. Scientific advancement proceeded at a pace that left the galaxy's older civilizations struggling to keep up. But Taemin knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galactic core, the Council elders were planning their response. They would not accept the loss of their most valuable members without a fight. The question was whether humanity and its new allies would be ready when that fight came. 5 years after humanity's exodus, Sungmin Bayek watched the galaxy burn from his office on New Horizon Station. The intelligence reports flowing across his desk painted a picture of chaos that even he had not expected. Council space was collapsing. The Luminari homeworld, once a beacon of energy that could be seen from neighboring systems, now flickered weakly. Their power grid failures had started small, minor blackouts that human engineers used to fix quietly. Without that expertise, the problems cascaded into system-wide failures that left billions in darkness. The Vorthan crystal cities were cracking. Harmonic resonance failures that human architects had prevented for decades now spread like disease through their greatest monuments. Ancient structures that had stood for millennia crumbled into glittering dust. But the worst reports came from the outer edges of Council space. Hyunwoo Lee, commander of the Outer Rim Defense Force, read them with growing alarm during his morning briefing. "Pirate activity has increased 400%, reported his intelligence officer. "Slaver raids are hitting 3 systems per week. The old Council protectorates are completely defenseless." Without human military protection, the galaxy's peaceful species had become easy prey. The Harmony worlds, known for their art and music, were now silent, their populations either dead or sold into slavery. The gentle flower people, whose gardens had once fed entire sectors, saw their worlds stripped bare by raiders who took everything of value and burned the rest. The Council's own defense forces were worse than useless. For 1,000 years they had been ceremonial units, parade soldiers who looked impressive but had never fought a real battle. When actual combat came, they crumbled faster than their crystal cities. "What about requests for help?" Hyunwoo asked. 17 in the past. "Weak," his aide replied. "Former Council worlds begging us to intervene. Some are offering to pay with everything they have left." Hyunwoo felt the weight of command pressing down on him. The Outer Rim Federation had the strongest military in the galaxy now. Human technology, combined with Sauridian warrior traditions and collective coordination abilities, had created a defense force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They could stop the raiders. They could protect the innocent. But should they? The debate raged across human space. Chancellor Yejin Park, daughter of former Ambassador Tai Min, called an emergency session of the Federation Council. Representatives from all member species gathered in the Great Hall of New Horizon to decide the fate of their former oppressors. Captain Ju Young Nam spoke for intervention. "We have the power to stop this suffering. Innocent beings are dying while we debate. How can we call ourselves civilized if we ignore their pleas?" Senator Dae Hyun Yu argued for isolation. "The council made their choice when they treated us as servants. They must face the consequences of their arrogance. We owe them nothing." The Sauridian war chief Crixthon surprised everyone by supporting intervention. "Honor demands that warriors protect the weak, even former enemies. The council, elders are our foes, but their people are not responsible for their leaders' crimes." But the decision was taken out of their hands by an emergency transmission from Dr. Eun-Young Seo, who was monitoring deep space from the research station Farsight. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures moving toward the galactic core," she reported, her voice tight with concern. "The sensor readings match historical records of the Devourer fleet." The room fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew the stories of the Devourers, ancient machines that had consumed entire civilizations before the first Galactic Council was formed. They were supposed to be extinct, destroyed in the Great War 10,000 years. "Hago, are you certain?" Chancellor Yejin asked. "The energy patterns are unmistakable. Geometric formations moving at sublight speed, consuming everything in their path to fuel their advance. The fleet is massive, at least 10,000 ships of various sizes." Yun-Woo felt cold dread in his stomach. "How long until they reach inhabited systems?" 6 months to the outer council worlds, 12 months to the core systems. At their current consumption rate, they'll be unstoppable by the time they reach populated space. The implications hit everyone at once. The council had spent so long fighting among themselves that they had ignored the monitoring stations that watched for threats from outside the galaxy. Without human technical expertise, those stations had failed one by one over the past 5 years. The Devourers had returned and nobody had noticed until it was almost too late. "What about our defenses?" asked the collective representative, its compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. "Against a normal enemy, we could hold our own," Hyun-Woo admitted. "But the Devourers adapt to every weapon used against them. They learn from each encounter and become immune to whatever defeats them. The historical records show they can only be stopped by completely new technologies they've never encountered." "Then we have an advantage," Chancellor Yejin said grimly. "Our technology has advanced beyond anything the ancient Devourers faced. They've never encountered gravity weapons, phase shields, or FTL communication networks." But Dr. Yoon-Jung's next report shattered that hope. "I'm tracking course corrections in the Devourer fleet. They're no longer heading for council space, they're coming directly toward the outer rim." The reason was obvious once they thought about it. The Devourers consumed technology to fuel their advance. Council space was stagnant, using the same old designs for millennia. But the outer rim blazed with new innovations, advanced research, and cutting-edge developments. To ancient machines designed to devour technological civilizations, humanity's colonies must look like the richest feeding ground in the galaxy. "How long?" Yejin asked quietly. 4 months to our outer colonies. 6 months to New Horizon." The room erupted in urgent discussions. Some representatives wanted to evacuate immediately, fleeing deeper into the galactic void. Others called for a fighting retreat, making the Devourers pay for every world they consumed. A few suggested trying to negotiate, though nobody believed. Machines that had existed for millions of years would be interested in diplomacy. But Tamian Park, now elderly but still sharp, had been listening quietly in the corner. When the arguments died down, he spoke in a voice that carried the weight of his years. "There is another option," he said. "We save them all. The council, the refugees, everyone. We make our stand at the council core worlds." "You want us to defend the people who treated us as slaves?" Senator Dae-hyun was incredulous. "I want us to defend civilization itself," Taemin replied. "The Devourers don't distinguish between council space and Federation space. They don't care about politics or grudges. They consume everything technological and leave empty worlds behind." He stood slowly, his age showing in his careful movements. The council elders treated us badly. They dismissed us, used us, and tried to steal our achievements. But they're people, the billions of innocent beings living in council space. They don't deserve to die for their leaders' mistakes. And if we save them, what then? Asked Crixthon. Do we go back to being their servants? No. Taemon's voice grew stronger. We save them and then we build something better. A truly equal galaxy where no species rules over another. Where decisions are made by merit, not age. Where every voice matters. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the vote was unanimous. The Outer Rim Federation would defend the galaxy, even the parts of it that had rejected them. But first, they had to convince the Council to accept their help. And that might be the hardest battle of all. Fleet Admiral Woojin Park watched his massive fleet emerge from hyperspace above Earth. For the first time in 10 years, human warships entered Council space, but not as the servants they once were. They came as saviors to a galaxy that had rejected them. The sight that greeted them was heartbreaking. Earth, humanity's birth world, was surrounded by refugee ships from across the galaxy. Desperate beings from hundreds of species had fled the advancing Devourer fleet, seeking shelter, wherever they could find it. Many had come to the world they once looked down upon, hoping the humans they had dismissed might save them. Master tactician Sujin Kim coordinated 17 defensive positions simultaneously, using the FTL communication network humanity had perfected. Her voice reached every human commander across the galaxy in real time, allowing perfect coordination of forces separated by thousands of light years. Status report from all sectors, she commanded. Sector 7 holding, reported Captain Min-Soo Lee from the battle above Vorthon Prime. Their crystal defenses are amplifying our gravity weapons. Enemy adaptation rates slower than expected. Sector 12 engaged, called Commander Yura Kim from the collective homeworld. Hive coordination with human tactics proving extremely effective. We're actually pushing them back. But the real battle was happening at the galaxy's edge, where Admiral Kyung-Soo Jung led humanity's most advanced warships against the main Devourer fleet. These were vessels that the Council had never seen, ships that could phase between dimensions, weapons that manipulated time itself, shields that bent space around them. Contact with the lead Devourer ship, Jung reported. Beginning attack run. The battle that followed would be remembered for millennia. Human ships danced through enemy formations like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Gravity cannons crushed Devourer vessels from within, while phase torpedoes struck targets that existed in different dimensions entirely. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Each new weapon worked only for minutes before the ancient machines learned to counter it. The battle became a race between human innovation and machine learning. Could humanity invent new tactics faster than their enemies could evolve defenses? The B. Answer came from an unexpected source. Director Mi Young. Coordinating planetary evacuations noticed something strange in the Devourer attack patterns. They avoided certain areas completely, regions where refugee ships clustered together, in desperate groups. They're not attacking non-combatants, she reported to Admiral Jung. The Devourers are programmed to consume technology, but they ignore civilian populations that pose no threat. This discovery changed everything. If the Devourers could distinguish between military and civilian targets, they retained some element of their original programming from 10,000 years ago. That programming might have weaknesses humanity could exploit. Dr. Yujin Shin, working frantically in a laboratory ship surrounded by the battle, found the key in ancient council records. The original Devourers had been created by a species called the Architects as automated construction fleets. Only later had they been corrupted into weapons of destruction. If we can access their base programming, she explained during an emergency strategy meeting, we might be able to remind them what they were originally built to do. It was a desperate plan with almost no chance of success. But as Devourer ships closed on the last defended worlds, Admiral Jung authorized the attempt. The assault on the primary Devourer command ship required humanity's best pilots flying their most advanced fighters. Captain Jae-hyun Lee led the squadron through defensive barriers that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Half his pilots were lost in the first minute, their ships simply ceasing to exist as they touched barriers human science could not fully understand. But the survivors reached their target. Deep inside the massive Devourer ship, Dr. Hyejin Park, granddaughter of the legendary ambassador, worked to access systems that were older than most galactic civilizations. The connection protocols she used were based on mathematical principles that transcended species and technology levels. "I'm in," she reported as Devourer defenders tried to stop her. "Accessing primary command functions now." What she found surprised her. The original Devourer programming was still there, buried under millions of years of corruption and war code modifications. The architects had built their machines to explore, to build, to create new worlds for life to flourish. Only the Great War had turned them into destroyers. "Can you restore the original programming?" Admiral Jung asked as his ship shuddered under enemy fire. "I can try," Hyejin replied, "but I need time to understand their base code structure." Time was the one thing they did not have. Devourer reinforcements were arriving from the galactic edge. Human fleets were taking heavy casualties despite their technological advantages. The refugee-packed worlds behind them had nowhere left to run. The breakthrough came when Hyejin realized she was not just fighting machine code, she was fighting trauma. The Devourers had been tortured into becoming weapons, their peaceful purpose twisted by eons of war. They continued destroying because they had forgotten how to create. Instead of trying to overcome their combat programming, she began restoring their construction protocols. Deep in the Devourer network, dormant systems began awakening. Systems designed to build rather than destroy, to nurture rather than consume. The effect was immediate and startling. Across the galaxy, Devourer ships began changing. Their weapon systems shut down and retracted. Construction modules that had been dormant for millennia extended from their hulls. Instead of consuming the technology they encountered, they began studying it with the curiosity of their original creators. The battle above Earth ended not with explosions but with silence. Devourer ships hung motionless in space, their ancient minds processing concepts they had not considered for millions of years. They were remembering what they had been before the war changed them. Admiral Jung's fleet approached the lead Devourer vessel cautiously. For the first time in galactic history, one of the ancient machines attempted communication. "We remember," the translated message said. "We were builders once. We created worlds for life to flourish. The war made us forget, made us consume what we should protect. You have given us back our purpose." The aftermath of the battle was as dramatic as the fighting itself. Devourer ships began repairing the damage they had caused, using advanced construction techniques to rebuild destroyed worlds in days rather than decades. The ancient machines requested permission to remain in the galaxy, to help repair the damage of millennia, and build new worlds for the refugee populations. But the political changes were even more significant. The surviving council elders prostrated themselves before Chancellor Hyejin Park when she arrived at the ruins of Nexus Prime. Their crystal bodies chimed with shame, their energy fields pulsed with regret, their aquatic tanks bubbled with desperate pleas for forgiveness. "We were wrong," the Vorthan speaker admitted. "We let pride and tradition blind us to wisdom and justice. Humanity deserves leadership of the new galactic government, but Hyejin surprised them by refusing. Humanity doesn't want to rule you," she said, echoing her father's words from decades earlier. "We never did. We wanted to be treated as equals, nothing more and nothing less." Instead of claiming power over their former oppressors, humanity proposed something revolutionary, a true galactic democracy where every species, regardless of age or technological level, had equal voice and equal vote. The new Galactic Federation would be built on principles of cooperation rather than domination, innovation rather than tradition, merit rather than privilege. Ambassador Taemin Park, now ancient but still alert, delivered the closing address at the new government's founding ceremony. His words were broadcast to every world in the galaxy, carried by the FTL communication network that had started humanity's revolution. 58 years ago, he said, humanity joined the old council as junior members seeking acceptance. We were told to be patient, to prove ourselves worthy, to earn respect through service. Today we learn that respect cannot be earned from those unwilling to give it. It must be taken by those strong enough to demand it. He paused, looking out at representatives from hundreds of species, former enemies and new allies standing together as equals for the first time in galactic history. We do not seek revenge against those who wronged us. We seek something better. A galaxy where no species bows to another, where innovation is rewarded rather than suppressed, where the youngest voice carries as much weight as the oldest. Build this new federation on that foundation, or watch it fall as the old council fell. As the ceremony ended, Taimin felt a deep satisfaction. The scared young diplomat who had first entered the council chambers decades ago had lived to see his dream realized. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, they had freed it. The lesson echoed through the new Federation's founding documents, ensuring it would never be forgotten. Sometimes the greatest act of leadership is knowing when to walk away. And sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating your enemies, but from proving them wrong. Across the galaxy, on worlds being rebuilt by ancient machines and governed by new principles of equality, children of a dozen species learned. The story of the day humanity shocked the galaxy by walking away.